Hello and welcome to this special show where we bring you the roundup from across the country on the COVID situation. Where are COVID norms being followed? Where are they being violated? In a short while from now, I'll be going across to my colleague Akshay Dongre, who will bring us all the latest on the Mahakumbh. And before we do that, we'll also be going across to the Divisional Railway Manager. We are coming to you live from the Lokmanya Tilak terminus in Mumbai, where today we saw massive crowds. But the top story as far as violation of COVID-19 norms seems to be coming out of the Mahakumbh, and Akshay has all the latest on it. Now, on a day considered to be auspicious to take the holy dip in the Ganges, lakhs of devotees gathered there in clear violation of COVID-19 norms. Akshay, take us through what happened there and how dangerous could this be? All right, we'll go back to Akshay in just a short bit while we fix that line. But, you know, we are at this terminus, the Lokmanya Tilak terminus, with some massive crowds throughout the day. And there, of course, there was some concerns that these crowds might surge as people are more and more worried about whether they will find trains or not to go back home. Meanwhile, in other parts of the country also there have been concerns over rising COVID cases. The Gujarat High Court today heard, a suo motu public interest litigation, and everyone's worried about the COVID situation given the second wave of COVID has sprung upon us. I believe we have Akshay now with us. Akshay, if you can tell us about the pictures that we are seeing from the Mahakumbh.
Well, right now we are here at Haridwar, and just right now the Ganga Aarti has ended, but the scenes here are very, very scary as far as the crowds are concerned. As far as the numbers of people who attended the Shahi Snan till afternoon were around 21 lakh people. Now, if we go according to the census data, the population of Haridwar itself is just 2.29 lakh, which is only till afternoon there were 10 times the population of Haridwar. The number of devotees and sadhus who were present here, and the number actually expected till the entire day were around 4 million people who will who would have taken dip in Ganges River. Here you can see all of these people and absolutely no regard for social distancing, no mask. Many of the people are not even showing any kind of fear. Most of them pretty excited, but the authorities have been very clear on one part, that ensuring social distancing among such large people is not possible, and even fining actually not feasible on a day like today. So these are the scenes that you can see at the Ganga Ghat near Harki Padi, and the situation is extremely sensitive as far as the authorities are concerned.
Right. Matters of fate, but unfortunate perhaps that COVID-19 norms seems to be on no one's minds. But moving on from there, thank you Akshay for that report. Moving on to Maharashtra once again, the state that's seen the most number of cases, the worst affected state easily in terms of numbers of COVID. The Maharashtra government has decided to postpone board exams for class 10th and 12th. Varsha Gaikwad, the education minister, announced this. Let's hear what she had to say, and then we'll go across to Purva, my colleague, for all the latest on that.
आणि 12वीच्या ज्या परीक्षा आहेत त्या पुढे ढकलण्यासंदर्भामधला निर्णय आम्ही घेतलेला आहे. 10वीची परीक्षा सर्वसाधारणपणे जून महिन्यात होईल आणि 12वीची परीक्षा ही मेच्या शेवटी होईल, की जेणेकरून उच्च शिक्षण घेणाऱ्या विद्यार्थ्यांचं कुठलंही नुकसान होऊ नये या गोष्टीवर आमचा भर राहील.
This is something that students have been bringing up in Maharashtra, worried about what has been going on. We'll try and get that line back with Purva as soon as we can. But this is something that has been talked about a lot on social media. Maharashtra's Tourism and Education Minister has also raised it. Shiv Sena members of Parliament have written to the Union Education Minister, Mr. Nishank. I believe we have Purva with us. Purva, the Maharashtra Education. All right, well, there seems to be some trouble with Purva's line, but obviously there is also something else that's been happening across the day in Maharashtra, something that we picked up in Mumbai as well, and that is, of course, the exodus of people and crowds outside the Lokmanya Tilak terminus, where I was there early in the morning as well, when there were massive crowds. But the railways say they're making announcements. Here's this exclusive interview. I spoke to the Divisional Railway Manager, Mr. Shalabh Goel, a short while back. Here's what he had to say as far as the railways preparations for those wanting to go back home fearing a lockdown. Let's hear what the DRM, Mr. Shalabh Goel, had to say. Sir, I'd like to ask you first, Bahar, outside there are people waiting, there's a crowd, there's some little bit of panic fearing a lockdown. What would you like to assure these people who are coming to buy, hoping to catch a train?
I would like to assure the public of Mumbai that the train operations are going to continue and we are going to provide as many trains as would be required. So there will be no dearth of trains. Let the people decide when they want to travel, but the only difference this time is that we are going to run only reserved trains, and this is in view of the COVID. We are not going to allow any unreserved or the waitlisted passengers.
The fear people have is sab band ho jayenge, hum kaise ghar jayenge, and that's the reason why perhaps people are waiting for hours outside. Now, that is not the situation this time, right?
I would like to reiterate that the train operations are going to continue and the railways are going to provide as many number of trains and as many number of coaches as would be needed. And talking about the rush, if you see, this is a normal summer rush which one would witness or which one has already witnessed in the previous years gone by in 2019, 18 or whatever. So it's a normal rush and we are announcing more and more number of trains. For example, from LTT today about 23 special trains are running and about 16 to 17 trains are eastbound trains going towards UP, Bihar, Bengal, etc. So, and once we came to know today that there is a need for more trains, we announced 2 more trains, one for Gorakhpur, one for Patna. So this thing is going to continue depending upon the waiting list, depending upon the rush. We are going to announce more and more number of trains. So people need not panic.
All right, several parts of Mumbai have also reported a remdesivir shortage, a drug that's being seen as a life-saving drug, but in many cases doctors are also saying that perhaps there's an overprescription of the drug. But in all of that, there definitely is a shortage. My colleague Purva has more. Purva joins me now on the show. Purva, this remdesivir shortage also seems to have become a concern amongst the other shortages.
Yes, in fact, it's the shortage that has been, we've been seeing it across Maharashtra, and even in places like Pune and Nashik, people are queuing outside the chemist shop to get these life-saving drugs. But that now situation is also in Mumbai. Now, let me also tell you that in Mumbai, you cannot get remdesivir at any chemist shop. You cannot just go and ask for the injection. It has to be at a specific, there are very specific distributors who are giving these life-saving drugs. Now, remdesivir is an antiviral injection which is being prescribed by a lot of doctors, especially, and there is a criteria that if at all your oxygen level drops to a certain limit prescribed by the doctor, and also there is an infection in your chest which is spread, only then remdesivir is in fact advisable. But yes, as you were also pointing out, that a lot of private hospitals have also been prescribing remdesivir, and there's an overprescription as well. So now the government has said that only only COVID-dedicated centers, COVID-dedicated hospitals will be allowed to administer remdesivir, because we've been seeing that there's a black marketing, then there's shortage of supply, and this is something that the government is taking very seriously. And they have said that only those COVID hospitals, if you have the prescription from the COVID hospital, only then you can get remdesivir at particular pharmacy, which is also should be attached to the hospital, the COVID hospital. Yes, but I spoke to a lot of people earlier in the day, and they are desperate, they are helpless, and let's just see what they have to say.
मेरा जीजा और मेरी बहन एडमिट।
कितने दिनों से एडमिट है?
Out of desperation, now Santosh came to SK Distributor in Ghatkopar as his relatives are in an ICU. They have been prescribed remdesivir, an antiviral injection, but he's only been able to buy it in the black market at 6 times the market price of rupees 1,000.
6 तारीख से रात को बटूंगा।
अभी तक नहीं मिला।
मैंने ब्लैक में लिया 6,000 में एक 6 अवेलेबल किया मैंने, फिर एक दूसरे दिन फिर से रात को निकला 2-3 बजे 4 मिला, वो 6,000 में मिला, मतलब एक इंजेक्शन 6,000 का। अभी 2 आवर चाहिए, इसलिए ढूंढ रहा हूँ कल से, लेकिन अभी तक मिला नहीं।
Amin's aunt, who is over 60 years, is admitted since past 3 days. She is comorbid and is on oxygen support. Her family is also scrambling for remdesivir, 6 doses, but with no luck.
इंजेक्शन तो मैं सैटरडे से ढूंढ रहा हूँ। एंड बीन टू बॉम्बे फार्मेसी जो बाइकिल्ला में है, फिर बोरीवली में एक कज़न गया था, कमिंग हियर, तो एवरीवेयर भी एवरीबडी इज गोइंग समवेयर और द अदर। इनफैक्ट डोंबिवली में भी ट्राई किया है, एक अमैया करके है वहाँ पे, तो बेसिकली स्टॉक ही नहीं था। केओटिक है थोड़ा सा सिचुएशन।
At the chemist store, in just 5 minutes that NDTV was present, Deepak Chheda received nearly 20 calls for the drug.
मैं समझ सकता हूँ आपकी तकलीफ, लेकिन माल ही नहीं आ रहा है बॉस।
In Maharashtra, many private hospitals are prescribing this injection. However, the state has now said only COVID hospitals and attached prescriptions will be held valid before giving out the injections.
इंजेक्शन जरूरी है क्योंकि उससे जान बचती है। अगर समझो कि अपनी ऑक्सीजन मात्रा कम हो रही है तो बहुत कम दवाइयां हैं जो उसमें काम आती है।
The state government has also decided to set up district level control rooms.
People struggling for these injections. Those who can afford are paying high prices. But what about those who cannot afford it? With these new government rules, one can only hope that the availability of remdesivir and tocilizumab is increased and people's lives can be saved. In Mumbai, with camera person Rajendra Dhayalkar, this is Purva Chitnis for NDTV.
And COVID just doesn't affect lives, it also has affected livelihoods severely. Now, several people have found themselves out of jobs, especially those dependent on the tourism industry. My colleague Sohit caught up with people who speak foreign languages, who actually function as tour guides, but with tourism being one of the most affected sectors due to COVID, perhaps these people also are one of the worst affected.
Medicine for their relatives. We'll talk to few of them. Medicine, people have been queuing up over here since.
Konnichiwa, watashi wa Ram Pitambre-san desu. Indo de wa Maharashtra shu no naka yumena machi Aurangabad ni dozo yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Koko wa shimete shimasu. Kono monument wa shimete desu. Dakara kankou ga zenzen haitte nai.
What you heard right now was in Japanese, and this is Ram Pitambre. He speaks Japanese as well as the language. He is a tour guide. Right now we are in Aurangabad, and on my right is Bibi ka Maqbara. What Mr. Ram Pitambre was speaking is how the entire tourism industry has been impacted for the last 1 year, and how has this impacted the lives of hundreds of those people who are dependent on the entire tourism industry. So starting with you, since when have you been working? And what has happened in the last 1 year? How are you surviving? What is happening? Tell us everything.
As I started my career in 1978, those were really golden days. There were ample of tourists everywhere. We were having work. I tried to manage my expenses, assisting in the shops of my relatives, or even I did not hesitate to assist my brother in the temple of Krishneshwara. at Ellora.
What language do you speak and how has been the condition for the last 1 year?
My name is Thomas Bansur. I speak German and I speak English and also the Thai language. And last 25 years, means 1996, I was working in tourism industry as a tour escort and the tour guide. And I'm also the regional level guides. Our income source is totally stopped, and then we don't know what to do. But we thinking what we'll get a job. But in this condition, because we are already across the limit of the jobless like that, because we are not the age to do any work anywhere. And we think that what we have to do, because we have a burden of our parents and the whole family. So we have many friends, and they told me, you are the reputed guides, why the governments will not give anything to, but they don't know what is the condition of ours.
And perhaps the saddest part about the pandemic due to the coronavirus is the lack of dignity in death sometimes. Now, in several cases, morgues have run out of capacity, and in Raipur, there is of course these visuals that show that there is no storage for bodies at the government hospital in Raipur. Some bodies are lying in the sun, some on the floor, and the COVID surge in Chhattisgarh perhaps is leading to this massive pressure on hospital capacity, on morgue capacity, and that's something that we earlier perhaps saw in Mumbai, but now these pictures from Raipur, perhaps also a sad reminder of what the COVID pandemic has done, not just to people's livelihoods and lives, but also perhaps to the manner in which they are treated after their death.